Namaste, yogis. Welcome back to your practice and to your mat. We're happy to have you back here for our Yin Homecoming series, which is essentially a series we've developed to help bring you back to your truest self. So, for today's sequence, we are going to move into your meridian pair of heart and small intestine. Essentially, it focuses primarily into your upper frontal line of the body. So, a lot of work into the face, the head, the neck, tops of the shoulders, the arms, and a lot of chest space as well. It's pretty similar to your lung and large intestine because the focus area is quite the same, but we'll move into poses that are quite different for this one. The heart and small intestine, it functions or it governs your blood circulation in the body. So a lot to do with the circulatory system. You will notice that a lot of the poses have a sense of extension and a little bit of flexion as well. So as we get into the parts of the body, you might feel that there would be a sense of opening and a sense of closing. And for heart and small intestine, the emotion that is tied to this meridian pair is your emotion of joy. So I would say that out of the three that we had so far, the three meridian pairs, this one has a little bit more of a positive connotation to it. So the affirmation that we have for you today, and we'll repeat this throughout our practice in the next 30 minutes, will be, I find joy every day in the small things. Okay, so I will be repeating this as we are in our yin poses, and hopefully this can be your intention for your practice today. Okay, to start off, let's go ahead and find a couple of props ready by the side of our mat. We'll be using a strap today as an option, and potentially your blocks and maybe even a bolster. I'm not sure whether we'll be actually using the bolster today, but we'll just set them aside in case you need them. Okay, as and when you're ready, let's go ahead and find a nice, upright, comfortable seated position. So I'm here in my hero's pose. You can come into your cross-legged or any other position. Let's go ahead and find stillness first. If you need to, shoulders relax. You may start to draw the shoulders up and back. If you start to feel a little bit of tension or tightness around the upper body, and just notice. Pay attention to how the body feels. Then if possible, in your first seated position here in stillness, the exhales will guide the body into a sense of softness. If it's comfortable for you at this point of your practice, you may even start to close your eyes. As you do so, you may notice your facial muscles, perhaps most obviously the forehead, maybe your eyebrows or the space in between, maybe your cheekbones. Maybe you notice it's slightly lower, maybe along your jawline, maybe your lips. So as you find your first couple breaths here in your seated position, we'll just start by noticing the breath and noticing the body. So take your time here. Now I'll just leave you in a little bit of silence so that you can connect to the inhales and the exhales. And then you may start to notice a pattern. You may start to find a certain rhythm with your breath. Or maybe you are just observing here the regularities or irregularities of each breath. Let's give ourselves about 5 rounds here. Take your time. Just another 4 breaths. Allowing for another 3. Last 2 here as you settle. Yeah, we'll take your last breath here. Now maintain in your current position with your eyes closed if they are closed, with the shoulders soft. Just at this moment, notice the upper half of your body. So I need to pay attention to the spaces around the face, just any part that is obvious to you here that sticks out to you. Notice your neck, Notice your shoulders. Notice your chest. Notice your arms all the way down to your 10 fingers. And just taking this moment to pay attention if there are certain parts of this region of the body that may be feeling a little different today. And that could mean in any form, in any manner, any shape. You're just noticing here like an outsider looking in, taking mental notes as to how this part of the body feels, the upper frontal line of the body. Let's take another 2 to 3 more breaths. I'll take just one more here. And start to bring your hands into prayer, center of your chest. Your thumbs may be touching your sternum. And maybe you tuck your chin down towards your fingers, but your spine remains tall. And repeating this affirmation, maybe out loud, maybe in your heart. I find joy every day in the small things. I find joy every day in the small things. Notice the effect of that sentence in your body. Notice any changes in your current state. Then in your own time, let's go ahead, release the hands back down. Pause here, just one last breath. You may begin to blink your eyes open. Okay, you may get your strap in case you need it for this first posture. Okay, it's only optional, so I will explain to you the options here. We'll take your 2 hands up overhead, and you could be seated into any position. Bending into the right elbow, so the palm will be touching the middle of your upper back. And then your left hand guides the right elbow in. So even though the hands are overhead, with the whole time in this posture, maybe the hands start to get a little passive. So that could mean that maybe your body is tilting forward, maybe the weight of the head is pressing back. You may even feel that you might be leaning to one side. So whatever is natural in the body to find a little less activity in the shoulders and in the arms, you will allow the body to find that. Okay, so this is our half position. If you're comfortable, you may explore taking the left hand forward. Left thumb goes down. The hand goes all the way out to the side, eventually sticking the elbow towards the side body, bending that left elbow back. So we're coming into from a half Gomukhasana into a full Gomukhasana. Okay, so essentially we're here in this position. Now, if you're like me and your fingers are not meeting each other, you can hold on to your shirt if you don't have a strap, or you can come back to that previous position, 2 hands reaching up. Okay, if you have a strap, your top right hand will be holding onto the strap, so it's a little easier to find connection. So we'll be here, the right hand grabs hold of the strap, left hand goes behind and just holds onto the strap onto the other end. So know that in your yin version of this posture, there's no need to find the fingers all the way together or even close. If you have a strap, you might even make a bit of space between your 2 hands. Okay, you can lean your head into your top hand. You can tuck the chin down towards your chest space. So just take whatever feels good here. We're just finding a little bit of length into the shoulders, into the arms, and into the side body. So if you would like to use something similar to a strap, that's also okay. There could be a towel, a belt, or if you have that yoga mat strap to wrap your yoga mat, you could also use that between your hands. And then wherever you are, we'll settle into a moment of stillness. So although the spine is upright in a seat, with time and with your breath, the body starts to get a little softer. So you may close down your eyes here so the visual element is removed. And just encourage the body to find a sense of softness. Let's take about 5 breaths here. And each of these breaths are full, they're lengthy, they fill you up wherever they may be traveling within your physical body. Just another 4 here. Take another 3. Allowing for another 2. Your eyes are soft if they're not closed. Just one final breath here. Now, if you have the strap or something between the hands, begin to release. And then take the hands down onto your thighs again. Just breathe here for a moment. You may notice sensations moving through your shoulders, your arms, your side body. Give yourselves one more breath just to be here. And then from here, we'll have the right arm on top of the left. So coming into a cross elbow position. And just walking the fingers in as far as comfortable. And then maybe a gentle tuck of the chin down. And you may even feel the upper mid-back flexing or rounding behind you. Let's take maybe about 2 to 3 breaths in this one. No rush here. Essentially coming into a counter stretch. And we'll do just 1 or 2 more breaths. And from here, start to release the arms, come back upright. Let's go ahead and switch sides. So now this time the left hand goes up first, elbow bends. Maybe the right hand guides the left elbow in. And know that this is a perfect place to be in. So you could stay right here already, just finding your way into stillness. Or if you'd like to come into the other variation, your right hand could start to reach forward, thumb turns down, so shoulder is internally rotated. You're going to glue that right elbow to the side body and then bending into that right elbow onto that back. Okay, so take your time here. You could reintroduce your strap. You could hold on to your t-shirt. You could have something similar to a strap between your hands. And then from here, start to find your way back into a sense of stillness and softness. There's no rush to settle in here. Maybe one side feels just a little different, so the variation may not be the same as the first side. And know that we are here to honor the differences in the body. And every time that we come to our yin practice is an opportunity to notice just a little bit more about ourselves. And go ahead and settle in. Let's take about 5 breaths once you arrive. Where the head naturally lands here, whether it's a tuck, whether it's a lean back, maybe even a gentle side bend, and just allowing the body to move into its natural direction. Let's take 4 more here. Just another 3. Last 2 here. Finding joy in the small things. In these last few breaths in this posture, what does that mean to us? Last breath here. As and when you're ready, you could start to release. Come back to your seat, letting go of your prop. Hands return onto the knees just for 1 big breath. Now from here, the left arm goes on top, crossing the elbows again, walking the fingers in, and then maybe a small tuck and a small round in the back body here. And we'll just take about 2 to 3 breaths, being gentle with the sensations, and just paying attention to just any changes in the body upon releasing. Last breath or two here. And go ahead and release. And just come back into your stillness in your seat. Your hands could rest on your thighs, having the chest in a neutral position so your spine is stacked over the hips. Let's give ourselves about 3 breaths here before we move on to the next posture. Just noticing the body and experience with the posture that we just released. Last breath or two. And let's start to open up the eyes. Okay, this time we're going to come onto our hands and knees. So finding a all fours tabletop position. Now from here, we've got a couple options. So I will just demonstrate first. We'll be in tabletop position. So you have the option to take the hands further forward and the hips slightly back. So it kind of feels and looks like your child's pose variation. From here, the right arm will thread underneath the left. You could stay with the hips slightly lifted. You could even drop the body back, coming into a child's pose, threading of the needle. Now, the other option would be to stay forward in your tabletop. And you're going to take your right arm under, threading the needle, placing right cheek, right side of the head down onto the mat. You could take your left fingers forward. Left hand could cross over to the right. Left hand could move towards the lower back. Left hand could just reach towards the space behind it, and it just dangles there in place. Okay, so know that you have these options here. If this tabletop position is not the most comfortable, drop the hips back so your body is more like a child's pose. You could still explore the left hand options in child's, whether it's reaching up and back in space, coming into a half bind position. So take your time to explore here. I will be in the tabletop variation. Just finding something that is sustainable for the next 6 to 8 breaths. Begin to soften the eyes, begin to soften the breath. You may start to notice a little bit of sensation, or maybe a lot, moving through that right shoulder, right arm, right side body. And just enjoying and finding all these new experiences to be just interesting for us to know. It's just another mental note that we're keeping in our heads about our bodies. Take about 4 to 5 more breaths. Three to four more. You're still taking your time. Last 2 to 3 breaths. Last breath or two here. Now with your next exhale, you're going to bring the left hand down wherever it may be at this moment. Press it down onto the mat in front of the face. Apply a little bit of pressure so you can lift the head. Release the right arm. Let's go ahead and sit back, whether in a hero's pose or in a cross-legged seat. Just give yourselves a moment here to find a tall seated spine. As you come into stillness almost immediately here, notice the sensations coming through that right side body. And maybe perhaps you may also be feeling the left side body. So just applying this observation here in your stillness. 3 more breaths. Take your last breath here, no rush. Then begin to open your eyes. Let's go ahead and set up for the second side. So you could come back into a tabletop first. And then you could choose again here, as it may feel different on both shoulders. Okay, maybe this one you'd prefer more of a child's pose shape. Maybe this one is more of a tabletop. So wherever you may land, take your time to get there. If you need to just check in first, know that you can. Eventually, once you settle, the right hand could move into any position. Everything is slow, mindful, and you're constantly checking in here throughout the process. And once you found your variation on this side, let's give ourselves about 6 to 8 breaths. Notice if there are changes in the rhythm of your breathing. If the breath is working through some sensations, or maybe the breath feels a little more full, a little more easy on this side. And just about 5 to 6 more. Just about 4 to 5 more. Last 3 breaths. Last breath here. And still easy, still full. And go ahead, release the right arm down. Lift the head. And sit all the way back again into a moment of stillness. Allowing for a sense of observation to return to your physical body again. Notice what you notice here at this moment. Take about 2 to 3 breaths. Last one here. And begin to open your eyes. Okay, so from here we're gonna set up the blocks. If you have 2 would be great. If not, then we'll just use 1. I'll explain the options here. So if you have 2 blocks, you might have the first block, which is for your head at the lowest level. Second block for your middle upper back at the second level. Okay, if you have 1 block, maybe just 1 block at your upper mid back at the lowest level. Okay, so feel free to play around with this. I'll be using 2 blocks here. Now, if you want to and if you have a bolster, you can use a bolster instead. You can place it the width, so your upper mid back will end up here. But if that starts to feel really uncomfortable, remove it. And if you don't have blocks or a bolster, just lie down onto your mat. Okay, so wherever you may be, find something that is comfortable. I'll be using 2 blocks here. You'll be turning away from your blocks. So hips are pretty close towards your second block. And you're going to start to lower your upper mid back onto your block. Okay, so take your time to adjust here. You want to feel like there's a lift into the chest and the block does not touch your lower back. You can extend your 2 legs and then just begin to guide yourselves down so that your head will end up into that first block. Now, if this feels a little bit much into the spine, you could remove 1 block and just bring the second one down to a lower height. Okay, so wherever you may land, just getting a bit more comfortable around the upper body first. And then maybe your arms start to open out. Maybe you take your feet wider. Maybe you take butterflies, so allow this to be more organic in your body. So you can get your body into any shape that feels restful. But essentially there's this openness moving through your chest, your shoulders, your neck, even your throat. So take your time to settle in here. Eventually, once you found your position, your shape, we'll meet in stillness. Now, this is our last posture for this meridian pair. So take your time to get into this posture. Almost like you're checking in. You're making decisions internally here. Which positioning of the hands, the feet, which positioning of the blocks or the bolster works best for me. And once you finally arrive in your position, you'll go ahead and pause for the next 6 to 8 breaths. And keeping everything soft, and this may take time. Once you found ease in the posture, once you found a sense of rest, and just embellish and enjoy the breath. And just enjoy the sense of openness that is not very common in our day-to-day lives because we're often in the opposite position. So right now, as we're here, showing up for ourselves and finding presence, returning home to the core of who we are, and just staying in this moment, finding joy within this experience, and just completely immersing yourself exactly where we are. I've got just about 5 more breaths. And take about 3 more breaths here. One last full, steady, wholesome breath. Now, yogis, we will be closing our practice either in this current position if it feels comfortable. If you're called to stay a little longer, you may choose to come down onto the mat, remove your props, and just come into your regular Shavasana. Or you may choose to roll down to one side and press yourselves up into a seated pose. So just take what feels most natural in your body at this moment. Your Shavasana could be as long as you need it to be. Now, wherever you may be at this moment, whether it's with the props underneath, whether you're lying down onto your mat, or you're all the way up into a seat, just begin to soften all the parts of the body, wherever that you may feel could still be active, or could use a little bit of softening. And then for your last time in your practice today, repeating this affirmation to yourself. And hopefully it takes you on to the rest of your day, your night. I find joy every day in the small things. If you're closing your practice along with us, take your hands to your heart in prayer. And bowing towards your fingers here. So if you're in a seat, your upper body is just in a little bit of a rounded back. Take an inhale here. Take an exhale. And bring your hands up towards your forehead. Inhale here. And with your exhale, bow all the way down towards your mat. And thank you so much for joining us on this journey. And we'll see you in the next. Namaste.